He replaced me when my body changed. Years later, he begged outside my door. They say childbirth is beautiful, but nobody tells you it can cost you your marriage. I am Magdalen Brooks, 43 years old, standing in the bathroom of our home in Plano, Texas, scrubbing twin diapers while my husband avoids my eyes like I'm something rotten. The smell doesn't bother me. The babies don't disgust me. But his silence does. This is not a story about cheating alone. This is a story about how a man loved my beauty, but despised my sacrifice. And how he lost everything because of it. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. The first time I realized my husband no longer loved me, it wasn't because he shouted. It was because he looked through me. I was standing by the sink, elbows deep in warm water, washing our twins' diapers. My back ached, my hair was tied up in a careless knot, and breast milk had soaked through my blouse. He walked in, stopped, and grimaced. "God, Maggie," he muttered. That sight turns my stomach. That was it. No concern. No help.
No gratitud.
13 years of marriage. 4.5 years of dating before that. And suddenly, I was repulsive. We used to be that couple in San Diego, the one strangers admired. Men complimented me openly. Women asked him how he got so lucky. He used to beam with pride, his arm tight around my waist like I was a trophy he'd won.
Now?
He slept facing the wall. That night, while rocking one twin and feeding the other, I whispered to myself, "Where did your love go?" I didn't know it yet, but my husband had already given it to someone else. And she lived next door. He stopped touching me like a husband long before he stopped calling me his wife. In Austin, Texas, where we moved after the twins were born, intimacy became awkward. Then non-existent. When I reached for him at night, he stiffened like my hand offended him. One evening, I asked quietly, "Did I do something wrong?" He laughed. A cold, humorless sound. "You changed," he said bluntly. "Your body, it's not the same." I reminded him of our conversation years ago, how he wanted formula feeding so my body wouldn't change too much. How I insisted on breastfeeding because I wanted to bond with my babies. His response sliced through me. "Look at your chest, Magdalen. It's a turn-off." I felt something inside me crack. I carried life. I nurtured it. And he punished me for it. That night, I cried silently beside him while he scrolled his phone, smiling at messages that weren't mine. And I didn't know yet that those messages belonged to Emily, my neighbor's 26-year-old daughter. I noticed her before I knew her. Emily jogged past our house every morning, long hair swinging, skin glowing, wearing confidence like perfume. My husband suddenly cared about jogging. He started dressing better, smelling nicer, staying out later. One afternoon in Dallas, I ran into her at the mailbox. She smiled sweetly. "Your husband is so kind," she said. "He helped me fix my car." My stomach dropped. That night, I confronted him. He didn't deny it. "I feel alive with her," he said calmly. "She makes me feel proud again."
Proud.
The same word he used when men stared at me years ago. I begged. I cried. I reminded him of our vows. He looked bored. "I don't feel anything for you anymore," he said. "I want a divorce." That was the night my marriage officially died. But my humiliation was just beginning. He packed his bags like he was going on vacation.
No tears. No apology.
Just clothes, his laptop, and his favorite watch, the one I bought him in New York for our 10th anniversary. "I'll send papers," he said, switching off his phone as he walked out. I collapsed on the floor, the twins crying in their crib while my heart shattered in pieces I couldn't pick up. Weeks passed. No calls. No messages. Then one night an email arrived. "Forget me.
Move on.
I've found happiness." I screamed. Not out loud, but deep inside where pain lives forever. That was the moment something changed in me. I stopped begging. And I started rebuilding. The first revenge wasn't loud. It was quiet. I hired a nanny in Frisco, Texas, someone gentle who loved my twins. I joined a gym. I cried on the treadmill. Then I ran harder. I changed my diet, went back to school, took a professional certification course I'd abandoned years ago for marriage. Slowly, I disappeared from my old self, and something better emerged. One day, I realized I hadn't tried calling him in weeks. That's when I knew I was winning. But I had no idea that years later, fate would place him right in front of me again. And this time, I would not be the woman he left behind. Transformation doesn't happen in mirrors. It happens in discipline. Every morning in Plano, Texas, I woke up before sunrise. While the twins slept peacefully, I ran.
Sweat burned.
Muscles screamed. But for the first time in years, I felt alive. I stopped dressing to hide my body and started dressing to honor it. School challenged me. I studied late nights, fueled by coffee and quiet determination. My mind sharpened. My confidence returned. People noticed. Friends told me I was glowing. Family said my eyes looked brighter. Men looked twice. But I didn't care about attention anymore. I cared about peace. Then one evening, scrolling through social media, I saw him. A photo. My husband and Emily. Engaged. My hands shook, but not from heartbreak. From disbelief. He had proposed to her barely a year after abandoning his family. I closed the app, hugged my twins, and whispered, "Let's see how long this happiness lasts." Love built on vanity collapses quickly. Through mutual friends in Houston, I heard whispers. Emily wanted more. More money. More luxury. More public admiration. My husband struggled to keep up. He had lost stability after the divorce. Child support, rent, and trying to impress a woman half his age drained him. Meanwhile, my career quietly advanced. I completed my certification with honors. A recruiter reached out. Then another. One afternoon, I received an email that felt unreal. A consulting opportunity. Short-term contract. Excellent pay. Location. Chicago. I stared at the screen for a long time. Chicago was where my husband's industry thrived. I smiled, not because of him, but because life was finally choosing me. What I didn't know yet was this. That job would put me directly back into his orbit. And he wouldn't recognize the woman I had become. Walking into that corporate building in downtown Chicago, I felt powerful. Tailored suit. Confident stride. Hair styled effortlessly. No trace of the broken woman he left behind. The meeting was going smoothly until the door opened. He walked in. Our eyes met. The color drained from his face. For a moment, time froze. He stared at me like he'd seen a ghost, one dressed better, standing taller, radiating authority. "Magdalen," he whispered. I nodded politely. "Good afternoon."
No bitterness. No emotion.
Just professionalism. Throughout the meeting, he couldn't focus. His eyes followed me like a man watching something he lost and never expected to see again. When the meeting ended, I walked out without looking back. But I could feel it. Regret had finally found him. The calls started that night. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts filled with apologies. I was stupid. I didn't realize what I lost. I've grown now. I ignored every single one. Then he showed up. At my temporary apartment in Evanston, holding flowers like a movie cliché. "I made a mistake," he said, tears forming. "You look incredible." I didn't know what I had. I crossed my arms calmly. "You knew," I said. "You just didn't value it." Emily had left him. She found someone wealthier. And suddenly I was the dream again. But this time, I wasn't dreaming of him. Power doesn't announce itself. It simply changes the room. I told him to stop contacting me. He didn't. He waited outside my workplace. Sent long emails. Left gifts at my door. I filed a formal warning. That was the moment he finally understood. I was no longer accessible. Back in Texas, my twins hugged me tightly, proud of the mother I had become. One night, as I tucked them into bed, I realized something powerful. I didn't want revenge fueled by anger. I wanted justice fueled by growth. And the final act hadn't even begun yet. Because life was about to place him in the one position he never expected, below me. Success didn't make me loud. It made me quietly untouchable. After the Chicago contract, my firm offered me a permanent role based in New York City. I relocated with the twins, settling into a calm neighborhood in Brooklyn Heights where life felt intentional again. One afternoon, during a leadership briefing, a familiar name appeared on the agenda. My ex-husband. He was being evaluated as an external consultant by my department. The irony tasted bitter and sweet at the same time. When he walked into the conference room, his shoulders were slumped. Gone was the confident man who once basked in my beauty. He looked worn. I introduced myself formally. "I'll be overseeing this evaluation," I said. His eyes glistened. For the first time, he wasn't above me.
He was answerable to me.
Work stripped away pretense. As weeks passed, I saw his professional flaws, missed deadlines, emotional instability, lack of focus. His personal life had bled into his career. One evening, he asked to speak privately. We sat in a quiet cafe in Manhattan, the city humming around us. "I lost everything," he confessed. "Emily left. My finances collapsed. I miss my family." I listened without interrupting. Then I asked one question. "Did you miss us when I was crying on the bathroom floor with our babies?" He couldn't answer. That silence was my closure. I realized then, men who love only beauty crumble when beauty evolves. Revenge was never my goal, but integrity was. I submitted my professional assessment objectively, neither favor nor punishment. He failed, not because of me, because of himself. When HR informed him, he broke down. "I know I hurt you," he said later, "but I'm not the same man." I looked him in the eye. I am not the same woman either. That night, I stood in my apartment overlooking the East River, watching city lights reflect on water. I didn't feel triumph. I felt freedom. Months passed. My life blossomed. School events, promotions, laughter filling our home. Then came the call from Texas. My ex-husband had fallen ill. Stress-related complications. Alone. Guilt knocked on my heart's door. Friends advised caution. Family reminded me of the past. I visited, not as his wife, but as the mother of his children. In that hospital room, he wept. "I lost you because I loved the surface," he said. "You were the depth." I forgave him quietly. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. It's release. I helped arrange care. I ensured he could see his children, supervised, structured, respectful. But I did not return. When he asked one final time, "Is there any chance?" I answered gently,
"No."
I walked away without hatred. And in that moment, I realized the strongest revenge isn't rejection. It's self-respect. Yet fate still had one final lesson planned. And it would be delivered in the most unexpected way. Success changes how the world introduces you. I was invited to speak at a women's leadership summit in Los Angeles, a room filled with executives, mothers, survivors. When I stepped onto that stage, applause thundered, not because I was beautiful, but because I was capable. I told my story without naming him. I spoke about sacrifice, about being loved for appearance and abandoned for humanity, about rebuilding without bitterness. The standing ovation shook me. Backstage, my phone buzzed. A message from him. "I saw you today. The world sees you now. I should have always seen you."
I didn't reply.
Some words arrive too late to matter. Children ask the hardest questions. One evening in Brooklyn, my twin sat beside me, legs swinging. "Why don't you live with Daddy?" one asked. I took a breath. "Because sometimes adults make choices they must learn from," I said softly. "But love doesn't disappear." They nodded, satisfied. Later that night, I cried quietly. Not from pain, but from pride. I had broken a cycle. They would grow up knowing love is shown in actions, not admiration. He tried one last time. He showed up unannounced at my building, rain soaking his coat like a dramatic movie scene. "I'm not asking for marriage," he said desperately. "Just a chance to be close again." I looked at him, really looked. This man once discarded me for youth and novelty. Now he begged for proximity to strength. I answered calmly, You don't miss me, I said. You miss who you could have been if you had loved better. His shoulders dropped. That truth hurt more than rejection ever could. I focused on what mattered. I founded a nonprofit supporting mothers returning to education after divorce, headquartered in New Jersey. Scholarships, childcare support, counseling. The press picked it up. My name became associated with resilience. He watched from afar.
No scandals. No humiliation.
Just the quiet ache of knowing he once stood beside greatness and chose vanity instead. That ache was his sentence. Then came the invitation. A formal event in Washington, D.C. An award recognizing impact in women's empowerment. As I scanned the guest list, I froze. His name. He was attending as part of a partner organization. For the first time, we would share the same room, not as exes, but as equals in public. Or so he thought. The final act was ready, and it would unfold under bright lights, where truth has nowhere to hide. The ballroom in Washington, D.C. shimmered with chandeliers and quiet power. I walked in wearing a deep emerald gown, elegant, unhurried, unapologetic. I felt him before I saw him. His gaze burned from across the room, stunned, frozen. He looked like a man watching the life he could have had walk past him, whole, radiant, unbroken. People approached me with admiration. Introductions followed. This is Magdalen Brooks, someone said. The woman behind the Mothers Forward initiative. Applause echoed softly around us. He stood there, invisible, and for the first time, I realized something painful and beautiful at once. I didn't need him to suffer. His absence from my life was punishment enough. When my name was called to the stage, the room fell silent. I didn't plan to speak about betrayal, but truth has its own timing. I once believed love was about being chosen, I said steadily. But I learned love is about being kept during change, sacrifice, and growth. I spoke of women whose bodies change, whose value does not. No names.
No bitterness.
But every word found him. I saw his hands tremble. The applause was thunderous. And in that moment, the man who abandoned me realized. The woman he left behind had become unforgettable. He caught me near the exit. Congratulations, he said, voice breaking. I wish I had been the man you deserved. I smiled kindly. I wish you had wanted to be, I replied. That was it.
No argument. No tears.
Just truth. I walked away while he stood there, surrounded by everything he lost and could never reclaim. Back home in Brooklyn, I tucked my twins into bed. Mommy, one whispered. You looked happy on TV. I kissed their foreheads. I am, I said. Because happiness isn't found in being admired. It's found in being whole. I taught them that love should never ask you to shrink, and success should never be used to punish, but to build. That was the legacy. Years later, I sometimes hear his name mentioned, always followed by silence, because history remembers men like him as footnotes. But women like me? We become chapters. I was once discarded for changing. Now I am honored for growing. And that is the most satisfying revenge of all. If you're listening to this and you've been abandoned at your lowest, remember this. You don't need to be chosen again. You need to choose yourself. Because the right ending isn't watching them regret you. It's watching yourself rise. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.